Every professional has a unique magic waiting to be discovered. At Finding the Unicorn in You helps you unlock your hidden potential. Thank you for tuning in. Now switching it over to our host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. Today, I have a very special guest who is a registered dentist, hygienist, and myofunctional therapist. She found the Myo Spot, a practice aimed at amplifying oral wellness to whole body wellness. Through teletherapy, she helps clients of all ages overcome tongue ties, TMJ disorders, sleep apnea, grinding anxiety, and various breathing and oral facial dysfunctions. I'm very excited to learn all of this stuff because a lot of this is new to me as well. So without further ado, I welcome Karese Laguerre. Did I say that right?
That was perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to have somebody pronounce my name right. So thank you.
Well, welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into the specific niche?
Yeah, so I am a mother of four, wife of one so far. I think that my original profession and licensure in dental hygiene is the main driver as to how I became a myofunctional therapist. But it really all started with a pediatric dentist. And
Mhm.
so there was a pediatric dentist, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, all parents, we give the highlight reel when anybody asks, how's everything, right? You want to talk about this one's in soccer, this one's in ballet, we're doing this, we're going here, and like all of the wonderful things. But there's a lot of things that we don't talk about. And for me as a mom of four, there were a lot of things that I wasn't talking about.
Mm.
And it was a pediatric dentist that really highlighted for me a lot of what I was going through with my children. So my son, he had what we learned later was a misdiagnosis of ADHD, but he had
Mm.
ADHD, a lot of behavioral impulse control issues. My daughter, my oldest daughter, so I have one boy and three girls. He's been disappointed every time I've gotten pregnant. My oldest daughter, she had every sleep issue under the sun. You name it, we went through it. There was guaranteed bedwetting, but then on top of that, there would be something else. So whether it's tossing and turning, falling out of the bed, night terrors with blood-curdling screams in the middle of the night, sleepwalking to where she's banging around things on an entirely different level of the house, and I have no idea how she made it down and,
Oh
like,
my gosh.
how she didn't hurt herself. Like, we had all sorts of things. Nighttime was absolutely chaos in my house. And then my youngest 2, we had a lot of issues with upper respiratory issues, so always congested, frequent ear infections, throat infections, I mean, you name it. And, like, so much of this stuff sounds so common, like, I'm sure anybody listening that has a kid is like, "Yeah, so what?" Like, we all have that going on. Well, it actually turns out that as different as all of those things sound, they really all stem back to the same thing, the way they're using their oral and facial muscles. And so it was a pediatric dentist that really brought that to light for me. And once I was able to discover myofunctional therapy and how you're able to make changes with the oral and the facial muscles, it was absolute game changing. And so that's what really brought me to where I am. It was the blessing of being a hygienist, working with the right person, and being able to identify these things for my children.
Got it. So let's just assume you kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's just pretend that I don't know because I really don't know what myofunctional therapy is. So walk us.
So myofunctional therapy in like the simplest terms possible to make it like an analogy is kind of like personal training, but it's for all the muscles below the eyes but above the shoulders.
Okay.
So what we do is we help to strengthen and coordinate all the muscles in this beautiful region here that I work in. And that's going to help people breathe better, sleep better, eat better, speak better, digest better, think better. It's absolutely changing in all aspects of health because health really it starts top down, to be totally honest.
Hmm. So you're working all the facial muscles that you have?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I've been asking people this all the time. So I do laughter yoga, and I'm always telling them that you have all these facial muscles that you do when you smile. Do you know how many like muscles you actually have in your face that we use?
For a smile,
Or Mhm.
6 to 9. It depends
Oh,
on, like, what kind of smile you're doing.
okay.
Sometimes people get really big with, like, a grin,
Hmm.
and some people are just a little bit more demure with it. That's not a word, but and it's just different. So 6 to 9.
Oh, okay. So is that something that you kind of work like with the way that they smile or that they talk or like,
Yeah. So we do deal with some facial expressions and some people who have difficulty like generating certain facial expressions because there may be some asymmetries in the muscle movements, or they might have like a crooked smile, or they might not be able to engage fully in an expression like a frown. You'd be surprised to see how many people are unable to frown and to bring the muscles to bring that the corners of the lips down. And so, yeah, it's definitely something we work on. But more commonly, we're working on like people who are mouth breathing and people who are struggling with tongue thrust, tongue tie, TMJ disorder, oral facial pain, those types of things.
got it. So would that also go with people that have lockjaw?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Or that grind their teeth at night?
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm telling you, the list is long. Yeah. I'm sure if you keep naming things, yes, I deal with that too.
Okay. So that means that I should probably do something like that because I grind my teeth all the time, and sometimes I wake up and it's like, oh no, I'm stuck.
Yeah, that's what I do. I have, several clients who are physical therapists, and they've tried everything. Like, they've worked with all sorts of, colleagues because physical therapy is what you think of when you think of your temporal mandibular joint, and it was myofunctional therapy that really helped a lot of them, and so, PTs are my biggest believers. They're like, "She's the real deal." Yeah,
That's
it's
amazing.
absolutely a thing you need.
That's amazing. So if they're having these issues, do they just like contact you and like, hey, I need a consultation? Because you said some of these you do telehealth, right? So you can do it like via Zoom.
Yep. So that was the only good thing that came out of COVID is that we've all kind of learned how to adapt to working on like virtual screens. And so, yes, I do see people everywhere. Telehealth is definitely an option. And, anybody is free at any point in time to go onto my website, offer free consultations. You can schedule it right on the site. And, we just dive in to what you need. And if I'm able to help, and if I'm not able to help, then I point you in the direction of someone who might be able to.
That's amazing. So I'll make sure to put all this in the show notes. And so if you're listening to this, just scroll down, you can click on it. But this is so fascinating for me because this is a new concept that I've never been introduced. So I have like a million questions. But what if somebody wants to get into something or this sounds interesting to them and they're like, oh, I want to get into this career? Like, what would be the first thing that you would recommend that they do?
Learn. There is this perception. So to become a myofunctional therapist, you have to already be a licensed something in healthcare. So there are dentists, hygienists, speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, registered nurses. Like there are a bunch of different occupations that do myofunctional therapy.
Mm,
But I think there's this perception that because it's licensed healthcare professionals who are doing it, that they have all this money and like, they can just take these courses without any prior introduction to the concepts. And so I think that the biggest advice I would say is you need to access as many free resources as possible. If it sounds interesting, just make sure it's right for you. There are lots of free resources online. If you can't find enough of them, ask me. I know where you could find a lot of them and just learn as much as you can. That way, you know if it's something you want to jump into. Sometimes it's such a deviation from what you do clinically. Like if you're a nurse, it's entirely different from what you would do clinically as a nurse. And so you don't really mesh well, and it becomes something that you can't really fully, you know, pursue as far as a career because you can't really put the pieces together of what you're accustomed to clinically and what this new reality is. So learn, learn, learn.
I love that. Yeah. You just never know what you're going to know and like what you learn and things that are going to interest you. And the more you learn, you're like, oh, wow, this is something that I really, really like. I'm going to pursue this industry. Versus the opposite could also happen where I'm learning more about this and I don't know if this is like the exact niche I want to get into. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
pivot somewhere else.
absolutely. Yeah. So that's the key.
Nice. So my ADHD is hitting really hard and I cannot ignore this. So I noticed that on your website, your link, like the icon of your business, it's all like around a giraffe, and I see the giraffes in the background. So what's
Yeah.
the story behind that?
Well, I had a graphic designer who I was trying to explain myofunctional therapy to, and I was talking about how I work in this wonderful region here and like expounding more upon that and how I work with tongues and so forth. They're like, that sounds like a giraffe. And like the more that I went and researched a giraffe, like giraffes have the longest tongues of all animals. Whales have the biggest,
Uh-huh.
it's wide, but giraffes can actually clean their ears with their tongues. And
Oh,
I want
shoot.
you
I
to
didn't
think
know
about
that.
the shape of a giraffe's head. It's not like ours, where like,
Yeah.
okay, it's going all the way up there. It's big. And so I was like, that's perfect. That sounds exactly like me. A giraffe it was, and then it just became my thing. I love it.
I love that. And I learned something new. I didn't know that they can clear their ears with their tongue. That's
Yeah.
it's really
It's
long.
a cool fact and a gross one. It's like,
Yeah, definitely. But I still love it regardless. I think giraffes in general, they have very unique but fun facts about them.
yeah. Yes.
So what inspired you to, instead of going under someone else and just being an employee and doing myofunctional therapy, what inspired you to open up your own practice and doing it on your own?
I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. When I was young, I always wanted to like kind of do my own thing, be my own person, and like lead and take charge. And
Really?
so I think that from the get go, as a dental hygienist, I probably was never meant to like always be working under someone. So once I learned about myofunctional therapy and how different it is from dentistry and how much of an impact I can help others in their lives and, in their children's lives and their legacy, I guess. It was something that I just knew I had to go out on my own and do, and this was the time, this was the way to do entrepreneurship for me.
I love that. And you get to set your own schedule. You get to set what clients you want to work with, who, like, and all of that stuff. Is just makes it so much better.
Yes.
So I know that being a business owner, it could be a very scary concept because everything's on your shoulders,
Mhm.
essentially. You do hire help and whatnot, but like, what was the scariest part for you about doing this jump?
Ooh, the scariest part for me, actually, a bunch of things converged at the same time. So while I was pursuing myofunctional therapy, I was still working hygiene. My husband was working a job. And then my father got into this very bad accident, and we kind of lost the support of my mom because she had to deal with my dad for my children. And so, we had to make a pivot at home. My husband kind of shifted to being the stay-at-home dad to kinda help to manage everything because for 4 children, somebody's gotta be there.
Mhm.
Somebody's gotta pick up and drop off and do all the things. And so the hardest part for me was kind of balancing and trying to make it work, starting a new business and it being scary, starting a new business at such a crucial time where I have to be the main breadwinner. So that I think was, like, absolutely a big point.
Yeah, because you had to like succeed or you had to succeed. Like failure was not enough.
Right? Just
And that's, I think, it's a really big motivator because it's just like I have all these people like relying on me, like not only them, but also myself, my livelihood and everything. It's like I can't, like, one thing's to disappoint other people, but if you disappoint yourself, it's like, ah, you know, it's like,
yeah,
I really did all of this was it for nothing? But
right.
you took the leap of faith and you're succeeding and here you are. You're doing an amazing work.
Yeah, go me.
So with all that stress that you accumulated, as a business owner, working as a working professional, we constantly have a lot of stress.
Mhm.
So what would you say is one thing you do for yourself to help you like regulate your stress to avoid burnout and keep that good work-life balance?
So my husband thinks it's terrible, but I dive deep into reality TV. Like I'm a Bravo girly, all the housewives, like all the drama. I will do that all day long. So look, I don't get to do it all day long, but when I get a minute, like my self-care is zoning out and watching like the most ridiculous stuff happen on reality TV. And that's my self-care. I just check out of my life and tune into others.
I love that. I mean, everybody has their thing that's going to relax and then kind of just let your mind go empty for a little bit. Like let those problems go, be in the moment. And if reality TV does it for you, let's do it, you know?
Yeah.
And I did notice that you are a published author as well.
Yes.
And you talk a little bit about better sleep, burnout. Tell us about it.
So I wrote my book Accomplished: How to Eliminate Burnout, Execute Goals. How to Sleep Better, Eliminate Burnout, Execute Goals. Sorry. I wrote that book as like a labor of love because there's so many people who we're in this information age and people will Google. They will go online. How can they sleep better? Like, what's the best tips and tricks for sleep? And you can do all of those things. You can buy the right mattress. You can buy the right pillow. You can buy some appliance. You can buy any of the things. You can stop using your phone. You can turn down the lights. You can turn down the temperature. You can do all of those things. But if you're not breathing appropriately and you're not able to because of how the muscles on your face are operating, that's not going to help. So it doesn't matter what you buy or what you do, like all of these things, it really sources back to how we breathe. We can go for days without water, weeks without food, but none of us can go for any more than a few minutes without oxygen. We need to breathe. And when your body is lacking breathing, so when we think about snoring and things like that, snoring is really just the sound of air meeting resistance as it's going through your upper respiratory tract. We don't want air to meet resistance. If we were eating and like a burger was meeting resistance going down our throat, it'd be red flags all day. Like nobody would tolerate that. But
Mhm.
yet every night we might sleep next to somebody who's struggling to breathe and we hear it and perceive it as snoring, but that's impacting their quality of sleep. And so it doesn't matter what the temperature of the room is. It doesn't matter if you have a weighted blanket. It doesn't matter if you have the best new mattress. You have to be able to breathe. And so it was a labor of love, the book accomplished. That way, as many people as possible would be able to understand and to know that there are ways that you can improve your breathing just naturally. And in that, leverage it to become your best self, become truly accomplished, become more productive, and really show up as your best self by just improving your breathing. And so that was my love letter to the world.
Well, I already added it to the cart because everything you said, and I was like, I snore. I don't feel rested. I definitely probably have trouble breathing. So I think I'll benefit a lot from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang. So can you repeat that again, just for my sake and the listeners? You said snoring is
The sound of air meeting resistance as it's going through your upper respiratory tract. So
dang.
as you're breathing in, it's pushing through like what's a very narrowed airway. And so that's what you're hearing is it kind of pushing through and the vibration of the soft tissues that it's bypassing.
And that's something that you can work on through my myofunctional therapy to kind of like expand.
Absolutely. So, if I can give a quick analogy.
Right.
So, essentially, let's take an image of someone with six-pack abs. We're going to lie them down, and the first stages of sleep is always muscle relaxation. And then once we're lying down, we have a greater force of gravity upon us, on our bodies, than when we are standing up. And so we'll take this person with six-pack abs. And if you've ever been on a beach, you've probably seen this, right? Somebody lies down with six-pack abs, those abs immaculate. They go nowhere. They're just there. Six pack, standing, lying down, nothing impacts that. It's nice, strong musculature. Let's take somebody with a beer belly and let's lie them down. First stages of sleep is still going to be muscle relaxation. And as we're lying down, more gravity on us. Does that beer belly sit upright in the same way? It
Mm-mm.
doesn't. The musculature is not as strong, it's not as defined, and everything shifts. And that's what happens when we have an airway that's all soft tissue, our whole throat. You look in the back of your mouth, it's all soft tissue. Your airway, it gets that muscle relaxation. So you get the muscles that are surrounding that airway to relax, and that narrows it just naturally. And then gravity, your tongue maybe falls back and everything kind of comes closer together. Well, now you've got what would be a beer belly of an airway. Whereas with myofunctional therapy, we're able to work out those muscles and the soft tissue there to really gain that strength and openness. That way you can have more of a six-pack ab airway and really breathe optimally. So yeah.
Interesting. And how many sessions would you like recommend like a person that is just starting?
So it's a commitment. I know everybody wants like fast results, but conceptually, we all understand muscles from the shoulders down, right? If you want
Yeah.
six-pack abs, you don't expect that to happen after seeing a personal trainer like 6 times, right?
Yeah.
The same thing with muscles further up in the body. It takes time. So it's somewhere between 6 to 9 months. And typically we meet once a week or once every other week. And we're doing exercises and gradually building upon skills until you are self-sustained.
Got it. And I'm assuming that you assign them homework to do in between sessions.
Absolutely.
So if they cheat themselves and like not do it, they're only cheating themselves.
Exactly. I tell people all the time, my muscles don't change by you not doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. It's like you can't lie to, and at the end of the day, you're going to notice because you can't lie to the person that knows.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very interesting stuff. Like I'm learning so much and I'm having such a fantastic time with this. So going into my last question, which is the premise of the whole podcast, what was one of the like the main unicorn lesson that you have learned that has impacted your life and made you the person that you are today?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned that's been a kind of unicorn lesson, I think, is that all things happen for a reason. When when I think and reflect on just that statement alone, I think it gives me the ability to have perspective on things that happen in my life, good or bad, things that may have happened in others, good or bad. And I'm able to just be more open to opportunities, open to pivoting and creating new solutions, or, just not creating so much self guilt or doubt or placing guilt, blame, or shame on others. And so I think that's what's allowed me to kind of really be able to do what I do and working with people from all kinds of backgrounds and lifestyles and coming from places where they probably feel a lot of guilt or shame for not knowing some of these things earlier to kind of take it, move it forward, pivot. Everything happens for a reason. We're all in a moment in time we're supposed to be.
I love that. And something that I constantly tell myself is I can't be mad at decisions I made in the past because I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
So I know better now because I made the mistake that taught me the lesson that I know now. So I won't repeat it. But I can't fault past version of me for not knowing that because I hadn't made the mistake yet.
Exactly. You got it.
I love that. Love that a lot. Well, this has been such a like so informational and like impactful like session. Like I loved this interview. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, they want to hire you or get a consult, how can they do so?
You can find me almost all the time on my website, themyospot.com, TheMyOSPOT.com. I'm also on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, all at the Myo Spot, or my handle.
Awesome. For our listeners, don't feel like you have to jot all of that down right now. If you scroll down on the show notes, you'll be able to get all the links there as well. If you go to rainbowcareercoaching.com, go to the Unicorn Wall of Fame, you'll see Karese on there with a summary of her bio and all the links there as well, and like things that we kind of talked about here today. One final reminder for everyone, make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow so that we can share this to many more people so they know what myofunctional therapy is and learning all these good techniques. And a final reminder, episodes come out every Friday at 7 a.m. Thank you so much, Karese, for being here. I appreciate you. And I hope any last words before we close up?
No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this platform.
Of course. And thank you again. And until next time, everyone.